Welcome to Wide Flank.
Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Wide Flank. I'm here with Alon.
And just Alon.
just Alon. Danny's no longer with us.
Oh, man. That makes it sound like he died. He just couldn't make this episode.
He couldn't make this episode. And for this episode, he'll be sadly missed.
Very sadly missed. But we got a clone from him from the weird mask thing at the fair, and we're gonna go back in time and replace his body with the clone. It's everything's gonna be fine. So
yeah, we got a Danny Doppel.
Yep.
And in case that didn't give it away, this Gameclub we were playing Chrono Trigger. And Chrono Trigger came out in 1995 for Super Nintendo, which is, the what was it called in Japan? The Super Famicom. It was directed by Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of the Final Fantasy series, Yuji Horii, creator of the Enix's, not Square Enix, the Dragon Quest series, and also Akira Toriyama, the character designer of Dragon Quest and also the author of Dragon Ball. And this is kind of retroactively known as the Dream Team. They all came together basically to make this this classic that everyone has come to love.
Yeah, so I remember this game coming out in 95, but I didn't play it. But it was all the hype. Like, everyone was talking about Chrono Trigger. I just wasn't really that into, like, the RPG genre. But, yeah, I mean, you open it up, you're in a classic RPG, like one of the best RPGs of all time. Tons of games have emulated it since, and you wake up, your mom wakes you up in bed, and then you head to the fair, and then the story kind of starts, and there's lots of like time travel and crazy shit going on. And
right, Danny described the opening as exactly like Pokemon.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's like, wake up, sleepyhead. It's like there's like Tinkerbell music and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, this is like a cute little comfy game, But very quickly there's like lots of enemies, and at first you think the big bad is Magus or Magus, whatever. And then there's Lavos, which is like the real big bad, which is just this huge like fucking like shell alien monster, but it's really like a slug.
Right. It is an open world. It's like your classic open world RPG with turn-based combat, but then also with time travel where you fight a lava slug. As exactly. The real final boss.
The real final boss. But you can also fight him at any point in the game. So it's like crazy. Yeah. But it is kind of open worldy, which like I think was unique. Like,
right. Yeah. Maybe open world's the wrong way to describe. There's like a world map that you can explore with limitations,
right? And you can I mean, I'm trying to remember other old games from the time, but you can advance the story, and you cannot advance the story if you don't want to, and you just want to do other stuff, which I think is like the open worldiness of this game versus other games.
Right. It's funny because like you say you heard of this game. Like I've been a gamer my whole life. I had not heard of this game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I don't know if this, like, what exactly happened in my youth. Like, I think I was, like, friends with a lot of, like, jocks or something. And so, like, I mean, the games I played, first of all, the games I played were, like, Mario and Donkey Kong Country and Mega Man at my dentist's office. And, like, I just didn't play a lot of games. Like, I actually am a big nerd and like into fantasy and sci-fi, but I didn't really realize it because I think like I didn't have those friends when I was younger, or I didn't play those games when I was younger.
Totally.
So like I never had played the first Final Fantasy game I played was Kingdom Hearts on PS2, which is not really a Final Fantasy game. And like I afterwards was like, this is so cool. And I played Final Fantasy X, and I was like, holy fuck. Like literally like, I would like go to bed like wishing that I was in that world. Like, this is like if I played Chrono Trigger when I was whenever it came, 8 or 9, it would have been like the best thing that had ever happened.
Which I think is a lot of well, this is unfair to the game, but a lot of the reason it's on every best of list. Like, I think this was a lot of people's first RPG, a lot of people's introduction to this game genre and like what it even is capable of and what it even like means, you know? So a lot of the stuff that we kind of will criticize and complain about, again, like we've talked about this with other games, when you're 8, like, I don't care how many battles there are, they're all fucking amazing because I can X strike with the fucking frog, you know, like, but yeah, I mean, it's funny because like you've now played all the Final Fantasies and every RPG and whatever, and I'm like, I went the other direction. But when I was this age, like I beat Zelda on NES way before this even came out, and then, you know, I was obsessed with Link to the Past. That was absolutely my favorite game. I played the original, well, I don't think in Japan the original, but original in the US Final Fantasies that are top down. Stuff like that. Like I played all that shit. For some reason, I just didn't play Chrono Trigger. But
I'd never heard. I don't think I'd heard of like Metroid until I was like 20.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like and something I look. So this game cost $80 when it came out.
Holy fuck.
Which I did some like inflation adjuster, which is $123 in today's dollars.
That's so crazy. Yeah.
And like, of course I haven't played this game. Like,
yeah. I mean, I credit all of those games to this small video game shop in the town that we're from that was near my parents' office. Both my parents worked, and I would go there and just be like, what's the new game to rent? And I would just rent and play the fuck out of whatever was new. And that's just what I did. That's just what gaming was for me. So like probably all of those games that I just mentioned were rented from that store, and I just came home and it was the only game I had or whatever, and I just played the hell out of it. But for some reason didn't get Chrono Trigger. Maybe it was too expensive to rent. Maybe he didn't get it. He skipped that one. But yeah, it's an RPG, and we played the absolute fuck out of it. It took me like 30 hours or something.
Yeah, this took a long time.
It's a long game. Yeah. Really long game. Yeah. So long that Danny didn't make it.
Love you, Danny.
Well, shout out to Danny.
Yeah. We need him to work on his shooter skills. You know, we need him to carry us.
Yes.
So
carry
us. He's got other priorities.
Yeah, he's so important in so many ways.
All right. So how'd this game look? What do you think?
Still looks great, even from 1995.
Do you want to? Yeah. Okay. We'll start with what you were saying. This is a beautiful looking game.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It kind of just reminded me that everyone for a long time, and I was in on this, I'm sure you were too, when we're young and all the new technology. The main thing of every new game was like the graphics are so much better. Like the new system, like the graphics, like, oh my God, like it looks so good. Like, oh, it almost looks real. One day it'll be real. And this is just a reminder that like it just doesn't matter really. Like you're able to create a beautiful game with like stunning scenery and like super vibrant, unique areas and world and parallel universes with, you know, pixels from 1995. And you really don't need these like AAA $200 million budgets to have like an effective visual experience. This game looks incredible.
Yeah, I've been playing Elden Ring, and it's like probably one of the best looking games I've ever played.
Yeah.
I'm consistently just like blown away. And I was playing this game and I was just like, this is as beautiful as Elden Ring. Some of the landscapes, some of like there's like a lot of churches that are very similar to Elden Ring. Also, I'm like, this gives me the exact same vibes.
Yeah.
So there's like, yeah, like some of like, I think we shared in the Discord, like there's like a shot of like the sun setting on the bridge.
Unbelievable.
And just like how they can do a big landscape like that with the pixel art is incredible. But also there was like one thing that really stood out to me is like the stove in the kitchens is like a really simple like stove, like a coil.
I didn't see this. Yeah, I didn't notice it.
It just like so incredibly easily represents. There are like so many incredible design accomplishments where you just like know exactly what an object is.
Right.
With such incredible limitations.
Yeah, it's almost like if something's not real, the most important thing to get across is to like trigger your brain into like imagining it's real or something like that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like it's not that it's not the quantity of pixels or the like hardware used. If your brain equally thinks an Elden Ring stained glass and a Chrono Trigger stained glass are stained glass, then like it triggers the same effect in our brain in a way. Like light is passing through. Yeah, there's more detail, there's more whatever the fuck in Elden Ring, but it triggers the same effect because it's like we're imagining the same. We're sort of looking at the same thing because our brain is like imagining the same thing. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's like all these optical illusions where your brain just like invents things that aren't there.
It just fills it in.
Yeah. Right. I assume this art works because our brains work like this, right?
Yes. Yes.
But it is like incredible that it does. And right, you're absolutely right. Like your imagination does a lot of the work. And like when I saw like I think the most beautiful thing for me is like the stained glass room where you have the trial.
Right.
And that's
it's incredible. And the camera angle changes. I'm like, what? How is this a Super Nintendo game? Like, how am I looking like all of a sudden I'm in first person with like a slow pan from the ceiling of the jury or like the courtroom, like down to the jury. It was like unbelievable. It was like, yeah, I mean, the best example of this, I think, is just, books. Like we don't even need the pixels to imagine beauty, right? Like our brain is capable of, through the written word, imagining beauty, like, beauty that we've never seen before. And, so it's really just a reminder that like all this shit, all the like chase of the best graphics and like, this fucking graphics card can run this at 300 FPS. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, it just straight up doesn't matter.
Right. I think like you're seeing this with like the revival of indie games or Minecraft or something, right? Where it's just like, oh yeah, the best-selling game for kids of this generation. Not even like people who grew up playing Chrono Trigger are like, oh yeah, this looks great and is really fun to play.
Yeah. Right.
It's not even like getting like the nostalgia bits.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. But yeah, I mean, it's moving on from the graphics. It's sort of like stunningly just an RPG also. Like I didn't really know what to expect. There was a lot of hype. I posted on like the Chrono Trigger Reddit. Everyone's like, holy shit, I can't believe you're playing this for the first time. I'm so jealous. Like it's on every list of like best game ever, best RPG ever, like all that shit. But like a lot of the game is just like, yeah, I'm playing an RPG. And of course, we're playing it 27 years after it came out, and it was much more groundbreaking at the time. And I'm sure we've both played a lot of games that have copied a lot of aspects from this, but in a lot of ways, I'm just like, yeah, this is just a fucking RPG, like a straight up RPG. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think we were talking about this before. It's like, what even is an RPG, right? Like, what, like you have levels and there's sometimes different people who do different stuff, sort of. And I mean, I think this game kind of like, it is really an RPG, but it also is like proves that it really does. A lot of these games don't even need to be RPGs.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's not actual role playing, right? It's like you said, it's merely the fact that like you level up and learn new skills, more powerful skills, and there's, the characters or like your party are involved in the story and sometimes speak. I mean, even though Crono, the main character, literally never speaks, but that's the only thing that like makes this an RPG. Like one of my notes is just, what makes an RPG? Isn't every game an RPG? Isn't this just an adventure game? Because it's just an adventure game to me.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't know. It could have easily been like at the end of every area, you unlock a new tech.
Yeah.
and not even unlock it. They just like give it to you.
Yeah.
And then they appropriately scale combat skill too. Did you grind at all in this game?
No, which actually was something that I liked and didn't like about it was I just fought the enemies that were there. You know, I rarely skipped combat. I just was like, even though the combat, we'll get to the combat, is a lot of just like mashing A to just get through because they're just like such a joke. But I appreciate the fact that that was enough that I was a strong enough level to beat the game. There was no point where I got to a boss and I just got absolutely mutilated and was like, oh, I need to fight random enemies for 10 hours just to be able to possibly beat this thing. Like it's not that kind of, it doesn't punish you in that kind of way.
Right. Which is good, right? I think that
good.
We passed around an article which we can have in the show notes about, like, it's called The Glory of the Grind, but just like about leaning into the grind and enjoying it. But and I do think grinding in some ways in some games can be fun, but I don't think it's optimal. Like, I think if you lean on that to get yourself through the game, or a game designer does, like, it sucks. It sucks to grind. And so I really like that this game didn't have that.
Right. But on the other hand, it was grindy in the sense that, like, there were so many battles and it was kind of tedious to fight all of them. Did you find that?
Yeah. So definitely. I mean, I think the combat sucked, and I think that's probably going to be our most controversial take.
Yeah, for sure.
Because everyone seems to think like the simplicity of the combat. And to be fair, right, I think that's part of our criticism is maybe what they're going for here in this game is...
And what's capable, right? A 27-year-old game, they like literally would run out of cartridge size if they probably wanted to do something that we're imagining. I mean, N64 came out the year after this game came out. You know, so this is like almost the end of, you know, an era of technology where like every game is about to get like more storage, just more physical space to like put detailed fighting and complex AI and all that stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of innovative things in this game, like reading back, you know, like old reviews and stuff like that. Like, you know, the enemies are on the battlefield, the enemies are on the screen, and you just like kind of run into them as opposed to like, you know, running through the grass in Pokemon or whatever, you know, like stuff like that. You know, and there's some cool stuff. I thought the dual tech and triple tech stuff is cool, where you know, combine abilities from two of your party for a more, you know, powerful ability or whatever. But yeah, overall it was just like,
yeah. So let's break those two things apart. Like, I think one is the interestingness of the random battles in the world. So like, I think like one of my least favorite things is random encounters that you can't control. Like Pokemon walking through the like Mount Moon, when you're literally basically always in the grass, any encounter can happen. Yeah. Like every step is a random encounter about to happen, is like the worst feeling ever. It's like, if I see another Zubat, I'm gonna fucking freak out.
I mean, let me interrupt you because I beat this game in like 6 sessions of playing it or whatever. But two of the notes from my first session of playing it were, is battling in these kind of games ever fun? And then my next note is, it's sort of tedious, like I'm running through infinite grass in Pokemon.
Yes.
Because it's like, they're not random, quote unquote, but you just see that it's coming and you can't avoid it. So it's like, what's the fucking difference?
So there are two different kinds of random encounters. One is you can't avoid them, and one you can't. I do appreciate the general just design choice of like being in the world and fighting on the screen. Yeah. Like, I just think that's really nice to like not have to go to like some generic
battle screen.
Yeah, battle screen where there's like in Final Fantasy, it's usually like a 3D character or something, and then there's like a painted wall behind it or something. It just like doesn't look good, and it kind of breaks the flow. Not that it's a huge deal, but this is much preferred. But then there's also like fun stuff the game does with like a bird will fly in and like you'll be like, oh, I think I got by this creature. Like I think I dodged this combat, because you sometimes can. And then like you'll get hit with a rock by something that like knocks you off a ladder, and then you fight. Like the game's like sort of fucking with you to induce random battles, which it's not doing it all the time. So I did find those moments like really satisfying, and rather than just like your screen blinking and suddenly being in combat, it made the random battle feel more I don't know, diegetic, part of the world.
Right.
And then the second part is what happens when you're in those battles, which is
I mean, the fight music, it's like it's triggering. Like you hear the snare. I actually like the. Well, we'll get to the music also. All of the music is fucking amazing in this game, but the fight music, it just like cuts off whatever incredible world song is happening at the time, which is a horrible feeling. And then you hear it over and over and over and over again as he's just running through an area with a random encounter over and over and over again. I'm just like, the fight music is driving me crazy. But,
that's actually an interesting point. The worst part about the fight music is it cuts off the other music.
Because I liked your point. I hadn't thought about it in that way, but it is a nice like immersive thing that you never actually leave the world screen, right? Like you were saying in Final Fantasy and Pokemon, whatever, like you're just fighting in the world that you're in, but it counters itself by changing the music.
Yes.
It should just be, if I'm in 2300 AD and it's, the Botopia music or whatever, and it's like, shout out to Inscription. And then like I want that to keep going while I'm in the fight, because I'm in that world and it'll keep me in there, and it's great music. It's so much more interesting than the fight music. But yeah, what happens in the fight? I mean, there are some cool things, right? Like there's the active mode where you have to sort of decide quickly because the enemies don't wait for you to choose what attack you're going to do in the menu. They're just going to attack you on their cooldowns, which is kind of cool. Where the enemies are on the battlefield allows you to change how you might attack them. Like you can hit multiple at once, or do some sort of combo move, and that's satisfying. And like I mentioned before, the dual tech stuff and triple deck, like as you unlock these abilities, they feel really satisfying and cool. Like it feels like, oh my god, this huge epically powerful thing, like I just fucking destroyed that guy. But the problem with like all of these turn-based RPGs that I've ever played is that you just do the most powerful thing over and over and over again. It gets to a point where you're just, okay, lightning 2 every time, first attack, because I get hit. The Crono's cooldown is the fastest, and it's the most powerful ability, and it's AoE, and it kills everyone every time. I'm excluding bosses. And so it's just like, it just becomes like an A masher in all these fights. And, most of the generic enemies are so weak that you don't even have to use abilities. You just use the auto targeted attacks, like the basic attacks, and you just kill everyone. And so it's just, yeah.
Right. And you could just use lightning every single time. And then, there'll be a new area where people absorb lightning and you're like, okay, I'm doing fire.
I'll just do fire every time, water every time.
Or I'll just attack because that works too.
Or I'll just attack because I'm a million levels higher than these like shitty little mobs, and I just one-shot everything. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, like you said, this will be our biggest criticism and probably most controversial take, but it's just like a zero skill scenario for no real reason other than this is how it works in RPGs. Like, it really feels like the type of game design decision where they were just like, well, this is RPG fighting. Sorry, you just have to, it just has to be this way. Whereas there are other games, like other turn-based games. I'm not even talking about RPGs, just any turn-based game, like board games or, or more modern games would be like XCOM or Slay the Spire or whatever, where the AI is relatively simple, but it makes it a lot more interesting and difficult, and you have to make decisions, and the fights are cool and interesting and like losable for all those reasons.
Right. Yeah, like they just didn't go far enough with the combat system, in my opinion, right? Like, you have a health bar that they do damage based on your level. It's like, well, just get rid of all of that and then, have it be something more just like simple basic integers. Like, if this enemy attacks you 3 times, you die. And so you have to line them all up and use a tech that kills the creatures in a line or something. But because it's like caught in between these worlds, it never gets to take advantage of the simplicity, right? It's the simplicity is actually cool. It's that it's easy. That's the problem. And this is something we talk about with difficulty, right? Is like, if a game isn't difficult, in my opinion, it doesn't force you to contend with a system that it's presenting you with. You can, like, I played it on PC and there's a auto attack button. So basically you just like press triangle and your characters just attack.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and it's like not very convenient. It's a little convenient, but like
the fact that you even make that.
It works, right? And that's like that's really sad. Yeah. That's just like a huge admission of failure.
Right.
This is like, we've talked about this with Final Fantasy 12, which is a game I like also, but there's a fast forward button. You like hold a button down and the game moves 10 times speed or something for when you're grinding. It's just like, you did something wrong if that's what's happening.
Totally.
And
there is an old XCOM that actually came out in 95, which is really crazy.
And it's amazing. Yeah.
I didn't even know. I thought XCOM was like a new game. But yeah, I mean, it's just, we're asking for something that maybe was way too far ahead of its time for an RPG in 1995, but we're criticizing it now because it's new to us now, and so it is what it is. I mean, like, I even think about like dice roll, like I mentioned, board games, like dice rolling board games can be like tactical and interesting. Like, there's tons in every genre. There's basically a turn-based version that has interesting battling or fighting with not complex all the way to super complex AI. But for some reason, just RPGs were just standardized to be this exact way. And it's just not fun at all.
Right. Yeah, there's so many cool things, like with multiple double text, triple text that I only used to see what it looked like, or that I was just like, this just doesn't matter. And the thing that proves this is like, there are boss fights where you actually have to get dialed in, right?
They're awesome.
Yeah, and they're really interesting. And there are even a few enemies, like I think the juggler enemy, like the enemy that when you attack, it has physical defense. And then you need to use magic against it.
Magic. Yeah, great.
And
love that.
If you have like 3 of them on the screen, you're like trying to remember. It's like you're playing like 3-card Monty or something.
Yeah,
you're like, I attack that one, then I magic this one, and you're like optimizing it. And that to me was like really, really. I was like, oh my God, there's like a cool rhythm thing happening here, and I am actually juggling these enemies.
Or even in the. I'm like blanking on all the names of the areas, but when you have to. The little eyes that are colored based on what magic they're weak to.
Yeah, like the imps or whatever.
Yeah, and there's blue ones for water, ice. There's red ones for, like, even those. It's like, okay, I can't use my lightning AoE because there's red and blue ones. So I have to lightning this, water this, fire this. Like, even though it's just as easy. At least it's active, and I have to think, and I have to, read the situation. I have to choose who to prioritize, and just like little things like that, where they made it so much more interesting.
Yeah, I think the thing where maybe like the RPG element is the best that bundles in with the combat is the boss that gave me the most trouble was the guy who, I think it was the sister golems, where whatever
you mentioned the sister golems,
whatever you attack them with, they attack you with.
Oh my god, yeah, I died to them a few times. Yeah,
I also. Well, I gotta share a video with you. When I fought Dalton, every time anybody's I want to talk about the active battle system, but anytime a bar moved at all on any of my characters, he dropped a metal orb on every single person, and then cut their HP
glitched or something.
Yeah, we gotta watch the video after this.
Glitched. Yeah, that's impossible.
Yeah, so I literally just had one person hasted spamming heal on themselves. And it was like, I like looked it up. I watched videos. I was like, this is not right. Something very bad is happening.
You like triggered some rare glitch or something like that.
So when I fought the Golem Sisters and they were dropping Iron Orb, half HP attack, I was like, I'm so fucked. But anyway, that wasn't glitched. But I had to look up how to beat them, and because they just absolutely demolished me. And what I did was, I don't know if you did this, but I used I went back in time. So I went back I used Luca. I went back in time, got red ruby vests from the
I know where you got
Stone
them from.
Age,
65 million BC.
65 million BC.
You grinded and traded the things for those. I refuse to grind. That's like the one moment of grind, and I was like, I'm not fucking doing this. But I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, I just got kind of lucky by trial and error, because I would like AoE lightning them, and then they just fucking destroy you. And then I'd physical attack and they fucking destroy you. But yeah, when the fire attack, it's like a pretty weak attack that they send back, and it's single targeted, so you can actually manage to kill them. But yeah, it was fun. It was cool. It was like, that was fucking hard. I died a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it was like, I felt satisfied, like, okay, I can equip this armor on my characters to make them immune. I have to go grind for it in a different place. Right. So it like really felt like that was the whole system really working together. I do want to say, I think the active battle system was a huge false start, maybe is the wrong word, like dead end. Like this was...
What do you mean?
Basically, I think this is something like turn-based games try to do to like be more exciting. Mm-hmm. I think this is like a criticism of them. Like, we want there to be like more action.
Right.
And if it's a strategic game, it should be leaning into that. If it's an action game, it should be leaning into that. Instead, like what you do is you're not creative, you're not doing things, you're not experimenting. You're just like, oh, I'm going to do what I need. Yeah, I'm going to get an attack off as quickly as possible, or I just know this works, so I'm just going to do it because I don't want to get attacked. Yeah. And that just doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, you're so right. I mean, I turned active mode off because I was like, what is this? Like, I'm like reading through the attacks. I'm new to the game, and I'm just getting like hit for like 10, like early game. I'm just like, this imp is just kicking me in the face over and over. I'm like, what is this? And so like everyone recommends like turn battle speed, all max battle speed, because obviously we've talked about the battle system, and then like put it on wait mode so you can actually like enjoy like the experience and read the abilities and stuff. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to say about the battles other than some of the bosses are legit tough and interesting, which, I'm sure other RPGs went on to have much more cool, difficult, strategic, tactical fighting systems, but these dated ones are just so brutal.
Yeah, I'm not down. I'm not down.
I mean, I again, like I feel like we bring this up every single episode, like legit, but I still haven't played any FromSoft games. But when I was walking around thinking about Chrono Trigger today, I was like, oh, that's like what I want from an RPG, right? Like I want like a really hard battle that takes so much skill. Like I want, like that's what I want a boss battle to be. Like I have to dodge their attacks, I have to beat it, I have to actually fucking do well. I want to like grind it in the sense that like I'm getting better at this skill and then beat it. I don't want to just be like,
right, or strategically getting better, right?
Or
like
strategically better
in a game like XCOM
or something like that. Yeah, totally. Or even like Civ, like, you know, I don't know. I don't play Civ either, but seems like the AI is good and you have time to make your decisions and it's all like very tactical and stuff.
Right, it's stuck between, and that's
Yep. What else should we talk about? I mean, the music is unbelievable. Should we just jump there, or do you want to go somewhere else first?
Yeah. So what do you think of the music in this?
Yeah, so scored mostly by this dude named Yasunori Mitsuda. It's just unbelievable. It's easily one of the best video game soundtracks I've ever heard. It's like 65 tracks long or something. Like I was like trying to listen to it today so I could like talk about it, and I was like, there's like too many bangers on here. Like every character has their own theme, and like Scala's is unbelievable and Frogs is great, and every area has a theme, and there's anthems and all this like just amazing music. A lot of like dreamy music, like sort of like lullaby adjacent music, you know, in composition and orchestration. And it's just, I don't know, his quote about it, Mitsuda's quote about it, he said, I wanted to create music that wouldn't fit into any established genre, music of an imaginary world. And I'm just like, fuck yeah, dude, you fucking nailed that.
Right, I felt this way too. Like I could pick out specific images in the game that I thought were beautiful, like the trial, but for the most part, it's just everything looked good. And so it's the same with the music. It's just like every time I was in a new place, it's like, yes, this is it.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you listen back, the sensation that I had wasn't necessarily like, I remember this part, or like that was such a epic moment in the game. It was just like, but I knew every melody. Like I could sing every single melody with the music as I was listening to it, because it's just really good and like earwormy, but not to the point where it's repetitive, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. Except for the battle music.
Except for the fucking fight music. Yeah, get that out of here. But yeah, I don't know. Some of my faves are like the Aristome music, even the main anthem. Like it's like the second track or something on the soundtrack. I was like, I could fucking start every day like this. Like, let's go. Like Carpe Diem. Like it's just like, oh man, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, there was so much creepy music, which is like my favorite video game music. And I loved it.
Yeah, a lot of the, like I said, like a lot of the stuff, maybe it's mostly orchestration or like instrumentation, but like a lot of it very much reminded me of like very dreamy like music. Like you said, a music of an imaginary world, like lullaby weird shit. And to me, I mean, I'm kind of jumping around here, but to me, I wondered if like almost the whole game is a dream. I didn't really see that theory anywhere, because there's lots of open-endedness with like the villain and the bosses and what actually happened in the timeline and didn't happen. But to me, I was just like, this could just be like Crono, the main character's dream or something like that. I'm like, he's a kid in 1000 AD. Nothing is going on. There's just like this fair and like everything is boring. There's no battles. They beat Magus, like nothing matters. He has a sword. Like he's just an imagination little kid, And I definitely had that thought when I was playing it. I was like, I don't know if any of this is real.
I love that theory. That's great.
Yeah.
I think when you get to Zeal, that's kind of that they start to toss that around.
They
right?
talk about sleep nonstop and dreaming and all that. Yeah.
And the game starts with you being like
waking up.
Wake up. Yeah.
That's my theory, which I'm happy that I didn't see anywhere, but I was also surprised. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Possible?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I love it.
It's like one of those things that 27 years later, it's like it'd be like corny if a sci-fi movie was like, and then he wakes up and it was all a dream. But back then, I'm like, that'd be sick. Like this whole thing is just this kid's imagination. He made up this whole story and this epic evil and like all magic and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I used to make that stuff up, when I was that age. Like that sounds right.
Right. I think this is kind of a tangent, but like I like when things are open-ended. Like
yes. Yes.
And I always love when people are like, oh, is like an Inception. Is it a dream or is it not? Like, what do you think? Like, wait, I think because like in this shot, this thing, I'm like, the whole point is it's not decided, right? The whole point is like you're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
And so like just like having a theory either way is like fun.
It's so funny that people's reaction to that kind of stuff is Google.
Yeah.
Like Chrono Trigger ending explained.
Right.
They just need it to be settled.
Right. Yeah. This always cracked me up about The Sopranos, right? Like everyone talks about it. It's like it's not real. It does. Nothing happens, and so you get to decide for yourself.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't actually happen, and that's the point, right? Like, right. So I'm very into like this. That just being like one possible, thread in the multiverse. There's a universe where Chrono Trigger is just a dream.
Yeah. I love that too, and that's kind of like the best part of the story in a weird way, where like all of the different open-endedness things about it, where you just get to be in a fantasy game and just be like, oh, it could be this, and like just enjoy it in that way. I was thinking like there's this like video of Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the South Park guys. I think they're like guest teaching in a creative writing class or something like that, and I always remember because he says what took a long time for them to figure out when they're writing episodes is basically if like your outline, if the end of the beats of your outline end in and then, you're fucked. Your story's trash. Everything should end in therefore or but. So then it feels like a story that is one unified thought, basically. Like everything has a consequence and whatever. And I just thought like another like in my head reason why this could be a dream is because it felt like a kid's story in a lot of moments to me. It was just like, and then this happens. And then you go back to this timeline, and then you meet a frog, and then the princess, and then you know what I mean. And I was just like, "Whoa, this is wild," Like there's a lot of action.
Yeah. I think that's like a really charitable way to view a lot of the like tropes and uncompelling, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like first half of the game story beats.
Right.
Which maybe we could talk a little bit about. Like, I thought the story was like really weak every time we would meet and talk about the game, and like the characters weren't super interesting. you're a silent protagonist, which is like a big pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
Like one of the 3 characters on screen doesn't have a personality.
And the main character, in fact.
Yes, in fact, the main character, which everyone cares about intensely. And I was actually watching videos. Speaking of the silent protagonist, I was watching videos of people who finished the game with 3 other party members and not Crono. And
they didn't revive him.
Oh yeah, or they don't like bring him into the party.
Yeah.
And everybody talks in every encounter and has something interesting to say. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is so fucking cool. Like, yeah. Why would I play as this dumb idiot who doesn't talk? Like, who the only thing he does is like freak out, and his hair, he raises his eyebrows and he nods also. But yeah, I was like, I just wish they made him a character or just took him out. Right.
It's because it's his made up fantasy / dream.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, there you go.
But I don't know. The story, I mean, I mostly agree. The story was like, I wasn't like being carried by the story through my playthrough of the game. At no point when I stopped was I like, oh my God, I can't wait to like find out what happens next in this story, really. It was more like everything else about the game that I liked more.
Right. I think the little bits of story, like going into... Which I think they really did a good job world building with those small story elements. So like when you are in the first map, like you there's like an inn and you can stay at a place. But if you cross the bridge and go to a different spot, there's another inn, but it's like 10 cents more. And it's like, why is it like that? I don't know. It's like a little fancier or something. Yeah. Like... it just is. It just is. Yeah, we didn't balance it, right? It's just like there's something happening here, and there's all these different characters that are doing various things, and some of them you can interact with and do side quests with, and I mean, there's just so many people to talk to.
Yeah, there's so many people. It's really impressive for like a Super Nintendo game.
Yeah, and I sometimes like feel like. Sometimes I don't talk to anybody, and sometimes I feel like I need to talk to everybody. But in this game, I was always like, I want to know what every single person says. Like sometimes by the end of the game, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to like mainline the main story or whatever. Yeah. But when I got to Zeal, which is, the big floating city or whatever.
Right behind me.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to talk. Literally, there was suddenly, 40 NPCs.
Oh, yeah. You're in a whole nother city in a whole nother timeline you've never been to. Once you're 20 hours into the game.
Yeah, and I was just like, great! I can't wait to hear what all these insane fucking lunatics have to say.
Yeah, that's actually wow. Like what a good thing to say about a game that I did the exact same thing. Like that's hard to get everyone to feel that way about a game, but I totally did. I was like, oh fuck yeah, like meet all these fucking weirdos, from 12,000 BC or whatever.
Yeah, who are these blue guys who are big balls? I don't know.
Yeah, no idea.
Something that I was also surprised I wasn't annoyed by was like the map design, especially of Zeal. Like the way it works is like it's after Lavos has crashed, the main antagonist of the game has crashed as an asteroid onto Earth or the planet. It creates an ice age. And then on the planet, there are these like teleporters that bring you to floating cities.
Yeah.
And then you like go across them and teleport back down.
Yeah.
And it just like gave the world a feeling of it made sense, and it was as convenient as possible, but not actually convenient. It wasn't like you went up to the floating city and did all the floating city stuff, right? It was like, well, because there's an island here and not a landmass down there, we like have to teleport this way. And there was like something kind of just
that's just such a good point, because it's just like it's so human.
Right.
It's like whether you're, making roads or bridges or teleporters or whatever. Like humans are still gonna do like stupid, inconvenient, inefficient things,
Right.
and it just like gives it life. It's like, oh, this could be real. Like if one day we have floating cities with teleporters, it'll probably work like this because they're fucking idiots, because they're still human.
Do you know what desire lines are?
No.
It's if you are like on a campus or something and there's like a cement walkway and then like the hypotenuse of some part of the cement walkway is just a bunch of like dirt or dead grass.
Right. Because everyone walks through it.
Everyone cuts through it. And it's like usually a sign of like poor walkway design.
Yeah.
Because we all have figured out the optimal way to do it, which always cracks me up. I'm like, yep, someone planned this and did a terrible job.
Yeah. This is what happens when you make a campus in like, whatever architecture software. You don't actually like think like a human being for 1 second.
Yeah. So I was like, there were a few times where I was kind of like, this world, I don't know how much. Every time I was like a little sick of the world, or was like, this doesn't make sense. I was like, oh, I like that it doesn't make sense, or I like the messiness of it.
Yeah.
It does make the world feel big. Like, oh, I just took a ferry across the island in one of the worlds. I don't know why I did that. It's cool.
I did it too.
Yeah. It's here. What do you like? It's not supposed to be useful. It's just people take ferries. I don't know.
It's just someone built it. So you can take it. Like, there's so much of that. It's a really good point by you of just, I guess we would call it world building. It's just like, I mean, the map, other than Zeal, basically, other than 12,000 BC, like it's the same map in different timelines all the time, and it's still just like very interesting. Like the people are different, the enemies are different, and everything is like cool and interesting and unique. And they just did such a good job of that. I listened to a podcast called Player versus Plot, and one of the things they said about it was there's a normalcy that you can kind of linger in, and then you approach the plot at your own convenience. You step in and out of the fantasy and in and out of the escapism, which I like too, because that is a really strong part of the game, which kind of helps the world building stuff that we're talking about, right? Because you don't really have to do anything. You're never like pressed into like, you have to go save the princess at the castle. You can just walk around the city, talk to everyone, go to the market, like fight mobs, like play games at the fair. And then like when you want, you can continue the plot whenever you want, no rush, at your own leisure, which I love that. I love the way they said that, and it's totally right.
Right, there's actually stuff to do if you don't want to do the main quest.
Yeah, I was talking to Bacon about this, friend of the pod, Bacon, and he kind of called it like a hangout game. Because it was like early in when I was playing it, and I was like, it's kind of boring, but like I kind of like it. Like it's like I'm reading, a lot of like reading the text, and I'm just stuff that someone like me isn't used to it because I don't play a lot of RPGs. And I was like, yeah, but the music is cool, and like the world is cool, and like... And Bacon was like, yeah, it's a hangout game. Like you're literally just, it's fun to hang out in the world. It's fun to be in that world. It's fun to just like look at it and be in it and get lost in it. And like another, like where we started was how it's so beautiful and like good graphics don't matter. Like another point in that, another notch in that belt is like, this game is so immersive. And it was made in 1995, and it's just because they built a good world with like pretty weird good writing and good music, and like so many other games, like again, like $100 million AAA games, like just miss completely, and I don't find them immersive at all. Right,
I think the new Bethesda game, the people who make like Fallout and Skyrim or whatever, they're making this new space game, and they're like over 100 planets for you to explore.
Ew.
And I was just like, oh my God. Like that sounds so awful. Like
don't advertise that also.
But like you didn't make like it can't be good in my opinion. Like you can't make that much stuff and have it be good. Right. Like it's it's insane. It's like all probably going to be like procedurally generated or something. Like this world is like lovingly built.
Yes. It's a handcrafted world, and it's very human, despite, time travel and magic and, all that other stuff that's going on around it.
You want to talk about time travel?
Yeah, I mean, my main note on the time travel stuff was just I kind of wish there was more time travel-y stuff. Like, I wish there was more, I don't even know what to call it, butterfly effect-y stuff, or like you do something in the past and it drastically changes the future. Like, it rarely happens. And there's other weird stuff about how like Lavos is present from the beginning of humanity through the future and stuff like that. But most of the stuff that you do doesn't really affect the time, except for like maybe a small side quest or something like that. But most of what you do is just like constantly travel through time and don't really affect the other time periods.
Yeah, right. I would say that like the counter to that is like, oh, in the end, you get to do all these side quests that all reverberate through time.
Right.
But it's weird that it just like they're all funneled into this one section of the game.
Yeah.
Where it's like kind of like a chore for you to go do all these side quests. And,
right.
Like, close every character's chapter versus like, oh, like incorporate that into your journey into each world.
Right.
Really, it's just like each section of time just feels like it's like it might as well just been like different maps on the same planet.
Yeah, it's like they almost nailed that, but they just didn't go hard enough or something like that, because again, we just credited how cool it was that it was different time on the same map, and I genuinely think that, but yeah, they just didn't really like flex hard enough until the very end, where there's just like 8 side quests to do. And it's all time travel-y stuff where you have to like manipulate something that happened in the past or the future and vice versa. So, but yeah, I mean, time travel's cool. I like time travel, sci-fi, and like time travel in games.
Is this fit into some archetype of time travel?
What do you mean?
Like some genre of time travel, because when you first rescue Marl,
I always said
Marley,
Marl, but it might be Marley. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Marley and me. When Marley and me are back in time, you, do you know the story with Pete and
and Marley and me?
Yeah, I forget what this is, but there was like some party or something, and someone was talking about Marley and me. These people kept talking about Marley and me, and like Pete was like, okay, we get it. Like Marley dies at the end. Marley dies, and the person like didn't know that, and so he just like totally spoiled it for them.
That's amazing,
and it's just fucking incredible. I love that story so much.
Shit.
So I always think whenever someone brings up Marley and me, I think of Marley dies. Marley dies.
Awesome.
But when Marl is
when she disappears because
that's very Back to the Future.
It's
rules.
Super Back to the Future. Yeah. I don't know if
she
that's
gets
a
kidnapped,
genre.
And she's not. Her ancestors kidnapped, therefore she's never born.
Right.
Then nothing like that.
Basically, nothing like that happens. Yeah, that's basically what my complaint is that it's cool and it's there. They just don't like utilize it or something. You know what I mean? And it's I don't know if there's a genre. I think that's sort of present in all time travel-y things. It's just like how much you focus on it, right? Like,
well, no, I think because like I think some time travel is like explicitly anti that, right? It's like you can't influence anything. You actually when you like, a lot of sci-fi I feel like is actually what you're doing is reinforcing the time loop, right? You're you going back in time is essential, like 12 Monkeys or Looper or something. It's how that story works. Actually, Looper is not that way, but yeah.
I like Looper.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's like an H.G. Wellsian time travel, right? Like the time travel. I think it was a book, but I've only seen the movie, and But like Terminator,
the time
machine, yeah.
Yeah.
And but like Terminator works this way. Lots of stuff works this way. I think I can't remember Day of the Tentacle.
Well, Terminator is different than this.
Is it?
Because Terminator is he goes back in time and is his own father, but like him going, he doesn't like change anything about the past. This is like what happens in the past, right? Like him going back in time is essential for creating the future they're in. Like nothing different happens by him going back in time.
But they're preventing something different happening because the robots, the Terminators went back in time to change it.
No.
Isn't that right?
No, because I mean, possibly, but basically in Terminator, it's like this is just how time works or this section of physics work, right? Like the Terminator comes back, Kyle goes back, and Kyle dies, and makes a baby John Connor, and
so beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. Like that Terminator is more like a wizard at the end of the movie being like, and this is how time works. Like, and this is the way it played out, versus like, you're right. So it's like butterfly effecty world is more like Chrono Trigger, where you have all these different endings and all these side quests and all that stuff.
Right. And what's weird is it's like, I think it is like Terminator or Butterfly Effect, but then there's that one Marl bit, which is like Back to the Future rules, which is like, I don't care. We don't like, it's not a big deal, but it doesn't, the lore I feel like doesn't match up. And the other weird thing about the time travel is something I don't understand is, which I don't actually care about, but I want to talk about it, is I'm not mad at the game for this problem, but you go back in time, but time flows for all time periods the same way, right? Like, so you go back in time and like some like Frog defeats Magus.
Right.
But like you could just go back in time again through the gate. You don't go back in time to like a place in time. You go back in time to that earlier time plus however much time has elapsed.
Right.
Which is like kind of weird. It's like, well, why don't you just go back in time to like an hour before again?
Yeah.
And it's just like, it doesn't really.
I guess like what they would say is that like they don't really know that much about time travel. The gates are just here. And even though Luca is like a freak wizard genius who in 1000 AD invented time travel, it's like, there's no control. Like Gaspar doesn't even have control of it in the end of time. There's just these portals, and that's just how it works. I don't really know.
Right. There's a flow of time, and each gate takes you back some amount of time from this current moment, not to this specific moment in time.
Right.
Which, I don't know. I love those like movie like flow charts of like how the time travel works and stuff. Those always get me.
Insane shit. No desire lines on those flowcharts. Just nightmare lines. What did you think about Lavos?
I think he's misunderstood.
Okay, go on. He's not the big bad?
Well, I mean, so Lavos is a classic Lovecraftian archetype creature. So
okay, tell me more because I have never read any Lovecraft.
I'll send you some Lovecraft. You're gonna hate it. It's so H.P. Lovecraft, very racist. Just got to get that out of the way. He basically has this idea of essentially that like human interests and desires and everything humans think are important is irrelevant cosmologically. Like these don't actually matter. So like any interactions with aliens or anything like spirits or anything like really different from us, like they don't, it's not like they're different it's like they're on different planes, right? Like they just don't. There's like nothing even lines up like the idea of like life or honor or heroes. Like that's love. Like these are concepts that are just like so human specific.
I see.
And so his ideas are generally like pushing on that through like cosmological beings like Lavos, essentially. Like what are its goals? What does it want? Does it hate you? Does it want to kill you? Does it care about anything you're doing on this? It's like how we think about like what is a
seed? A man?
What is a man? What is a seed that wants to grow to a human being? Like what is its conception of its existence versus our conception of its existence and how he interacts with it, right? It's like totally...
Right. I see what you mean. So what you're saying is that Lavos isn't even on our plane. It has essentially nothing to do with us except for the fact that it just happened to land on Earth, and it's just doing the one thing that it's meant to do, or the one thing it can do, which is like mine a planet for its resources and destroy it and then leave.
Right, exactly. It's what are you... So...
Okay, let me go one step further. You're a vegan. Would you eat Lavos? Does it have a central nervous system?
So...
Because you would eat an oyster.
Right, I would eat an oyster. Right, so this is the thing with... this is the thing. So like people are always like, do plants feel pain, right? And the question... The answer is I don't know, but I definitely know animals feel pain, right?
Yes,
so again, I have to eat something. I guess I could kill myself, but I think that's an open question, right? Like what I probably would eat Lavos, but the problem is like with something like this is it could be so complex and so significant that it's like way worse than like its capacity for suffering and death. Like this is a being that lives for eternity, right? Like it's really bad if it dies, in my opinion, right? Like that's a lot of existence. So and to push on this a little bit, like you're running around murdering creatures, you're murdering sentient dinosaurs who
reptiles.
in one version of the ending populate the earth. They're very intelligent. They have build
much
cities.
More intelligent than humans at the time.
than apes which is a funny thing the game does, is refer to humans as apes. The reptiles do, right? Which is all we are, right? We're just a bunch of we're just apes, and you're just going around killing them and murdering them, and then you go kill Lavos. Why? Because like you just want to live.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't want bad stuff to happen to you.
Because we're doing basically the one thing that we know to do in a similar to Lavos way, which is survive.
Exactly. So we're all just in this Darwinian competition, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like you could be the villain of, like, Crono could be the villain of this game, right? You guys are murdering all these smart dinosaurs. You're murdering this ancient being that's going to populate the universe.
Yeah.
It'd be like, does a tree have any right to kill a bunch of people, right? Like, if it's going to get chopped down, like, sure, why not?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this, like, do a bunch of, Oh, anyway. Do you have any?
I love it. I know. Okay. I kind of want to talk more about it, but like it is again, like this is what we said earlier, like a nice piece of open-ended story that the game gives us. Because you can be an 8-year-old and play this game and just be like, Lavos is the bad, and I beat the game because they killed the bad. But it's just open-ended enough that you can really think about, like, what is Lavos? Like, is Lavos bad? Who's good? Who's bad? Is anyone good? Is anyone bad? And it just lets you dive in a little bit, which, I don't know how much was intentional, how much wasn't, but whatever, it is what it is.
There's a line that when you're fighting Lavos and you find out what it's been doing, which is like absorbing your DNA to make a better version of itself. Frog says, we have been reared like animals. And basically he's like, I can't bear this. You have to die. Like, we've just been raised like animals for the slaughter. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, when pigs rise up and kill us all, we'll have deserved it.
It's just the food chain, basically. Yeah. Lavos is just on top. It's also awesomely ironic that Frog says that.
Yes.
You're a fucking frog. Don't go to France, bro. You're fucked. But yeah, I mean, like, if you wanted to get really, like, I don't know, theoretical, I guess, like, in a really basic way, I sort of thought that Lavos almost represents, like, I'm not religious, but like a generic evil. Like, Lavos almost represents human weakness in like an original sin sort of way, because it's literally as old as humanity. And it's just this undefinable alien entity thing that preys on human weakness. Like everything that you see through the time periods is like greed and like hunger for power and like, you know, worshiping this thing. It's just like preying on all of our weaknesses. I thought it was like kind of an interesting angle to look at it from, where it's just like, it's just almost like it has to be there for us to be human or something, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the driving force for a lot of this is, and the theme of this game, I think, is like immortality.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's also like very human, right? The fear of death.
Right.
And that's why like, actually, I can't remember why Magus summons Lavos, but
because he wants to kill it to save Scala.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because Magus is Janus.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the queen, who's
Queen
Zeal. Yeah, Queen Zeal is trying to gain immortality, and I think Dalton is too.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like everyone basically is.
Yeah, everyone
right?
is. Yeah, trying to become immortal, and right, Crono dies, comes back to life. Lavos is undying. Right, it just lives in the core and sends off its spawn or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah,
I
think
and Mammon, like the Mammon machine, is what they call it in 12,000 BC. That's the thing Queen Zeal uses to like suck power from Lavos or whatever. Is like an ancient word for like evil and sin and stuff like that. Mammon is.
Right. You're making I don't know how much they did this here, but right, it's like in order to make your life better or achieve some, your Tower of Babel, right?
Yeah.
You have to like make horrible sacrifices in order to achieve, right? It's like, we can connect that to global warming or resource extraction or whatever thing.
Yeah. So, yeah. Lot of action on Lavos.
That's some heady shit.
I know, that was cool though. I never go there. But the Chrono Trigger brought it out of me, so I like that.
Dude, are you joking? Yeah, you were like, this whole thing's a dream.
True.
That's fucking wild, dude.
I
that
mean,
blew my
fucking
mind.
when you talk to Masa and Mune's sister and Zeal, and she says, "Am I a butterfly dreaming I'm a man, or a bowling ball dreaming I'm a plate of sashimi? Never assume that what you see and feel is real." Like, if you look at it from my angle, that it's Chrono's dream, there's so many parts where you're just like, this is obviously a dream. Like, I'm reading this shit, I'm just like, wow, this kid's got a crazy imagination on him.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna have the new game plus it, and
yes.
be like, okay, this is a dream.
Thank you. Anything else you want to talk about? I mean, there's like different endings. I don't know if we have to go into those or not.
Yeah, I just love that it is like that. I love that you can go fight Lavos basically from the beginning of the game.
Oh, I think love that
amazing.
too. I love that. I love that he's there in every time period. It's there in every time period. And right at the beginning of the game, you can just fight him. And any time you go to the end of time, you can just fight him. And it's just, I love that. And every Also, every time in the game when you defeat Lavos changes the ending. I think there's 13 endings. But you defeat Lavos at any different point in the game or different time period, and it's a different ending, which is just cool.
Yeah. I think I love all that. I do think the one thing that's like kind of strange about this is like you basically just like get to pick the ending you want.
Yeah.
Whereas like in keeping with our like kind of our criticism about the time travel stuff, like I think if there was more influence you could have on each time period, like everyone's like, oh, the New Game Plus gives you so many reasons to replay it to like explore the different endings. But it's like, actually, you just need to save an hour before the final boss. You can experience all the endings and everything.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy them.
Yeah.
On their own.
Me too. Overall, good ass game. I think we should rate it. Oh, were there any questions? I actually forgot to look.
Yeah, there weren't.
I think Hayden had one, right? It was just like,
oh yes,
right? Wasn't it? Wasn't that one of them?
Yeah. Okay. So Comrade Hack says, how much did the Toriyama design characters enhance this game?
Are you a Dragon Ball guy?
No, I'm not.
I've seen it a little bit, and I think it's cool, but I've never like gotten into it.
I heard on a podcast, basically, he drew the front of every character. And like, actually, that they were apparently the team was like annoyed because they had to like make up the backs of every character. And then also, like, I just don't think he was that involved.
Yeah, I don't really think that his characters carried the game.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's not like there's like the anime cutscenes and stuff, which I actually think are pretty sick. But, you know, like, Crono just looks like a generic Dragon Ball dude. Like he just sort of like looks like Goku. That doesn't like add to the game to me, you know, like it's just like whatever.
I liked a bunch of the cutscenes.
Yeah, I thought they were cool.
I wish they weren't in the game because
they weren't in. I played the SNES ROM version and they're not in there.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
I actually didn't even know they existed until like I was researching for the pod and I was like, whoa, that's a fucking... At first I was like, did someone like draw Frog like doing... Is this like fan art? And then there's like a 11-minute YouTube video of the anime cutscenes. I was like, whoa, these are cool.
So where did that come from? Do you know?
I think it was just in a newer release, maybe for the DS version.
Yeah, maybe they made it. They just made it for that.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it was not in the original game.
Okay, I was also gonna ask, like, how the hell did they fit that in the?
Yeah, there's no fucking way those graphics and stuff could be in there. What were you gonna say about the cutscenes? Oh, you wish they weren't in there? Why?
Yeah. Oh, because I just because the art was so good, and I feel like all the characters had so much character and were represented so well, and then like see an ugly Crono and like Frog looking kind of weird, and I was just like, this is not who I imagine these people to be. It's kind of like, you know, like having the movie characters on the cover of the book you're reading. It's like,
yes, that's a great call. Yeah. It just came in a later version of the game. I don't have like all of the details here, but one of the later versions of the game included anime cutscenes.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right. Should we fucking rate it?
Yeah. Okay. So, senses 3.
Yeah, it's a 3. It's a 3 out of 3 for me.
Yeah.
Senses are phenomenal. So that, to answer Hayden's question, that's what carried the game for me, not the individual character designs.
Right. Which, like, I'm wondering about like the fun aspect of it, because like the world building is interesting, but I wouldn't like exactly classify it as fun.
Well, there are many flaws in our rating system.
Yes.
And one of them,
we're not perfect.
We're not perfect, nor is any game perfect, you know, except for the game of life. And fun is a huge flaw in our rating system, because I agree with you. I don't really think this game is fun, and I don't think it's trying to be fun, and I don't think it's supposed to be fun. So yeah, I just don't think it's a fun game. I guess I'm giving it a 0 out of 3 because it's not fun. Basically what I mean by that is if someone is like, I want to play a really fun game right now, where on your list would you put a 30-hour RPG from 1995? It would be near the bottom. It just wouldn't. I wouldn't be like, try this.
Right.
That's not what's good about the game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give a little more leeway on what fun is, which is maybe like, it's fun to explore the world and
yeah.
So I'm going to give it a 1. But
Okay.
yeah, right, there is a lot of combat is most of the game and it's not good.
Yeah,
so.
I really liked this game way more than I thought I was going to, but fun isn't one of the reasons why. And that leads me to the next thing, which is recommend, which is I think I give it a solid 2 out of 3. I don't think every gamer that I know, every person I know needs to stop what they're doing and play this game, but any gamer would probably like this game. I'm like one of the furthest on like the spectrum of RPG players or like the Venn diagram of gamers and RPG players. I'm like far away from the RPG circle and I still really enjoyed it. So, I think basically probably because of that, every gamer would enjoy this.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be hard to recommend this to some people I know who don't play video games.
Yes, I would not give it a 3. Like, I'm not just sending like my sister-in-law who doesn't play any games, like, try this. But again, yeah, if you play video games, surely at some point in time you've played an RPG, so that whole concept wouldn't be new to you, right? Like it wasn't new to me. And yeah, I think it's just like great and cool. And I was like running errands and shit today and like listening to the soundtrack, and I was like, this is just amazing. Like, this is awesome. I love this. I love like sorta being in that world again, like via the music, So.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so I'm with you too.
Nice. That's a strong ratings.
Yeah. Okay, so our next game.
We have the next game picked.
Yeah. What is it on? Because I forgot already.
We're doing a 2-for-1. We're doing Portal and Portal 2.
Oh, right. We're doing Portal and Portal 2. It's actually and
oh yeah, I forgot. We're doing a 3-for-1.
Yeah. So for next game club, we're playing Portal and Portal 2.
So that'll be a month-ish from now.
Yeah. And then 2 months from now, we're going to do Hades.
Yeah.
Because Hades is a roguelike that, probably shouldn't be marathoned and you want to take your time with. We were thinking like, everyone could take their time with it.
Play at their own speed, grind as much as you want or don't want to, and yeah, just have fun with it and stuff. So yeah, I'm really fucking psyched about all 3 of these actually. So
me too. Portal and Portal 2 are not long, so
yeah, they're really short, I think, right? Like 3 hours or something.
Yeah, I think Portal 1 is like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
The Hades, by the way, and we can talk about this next pod too, but there is a point where credits roll, so you can beat the story, and you can. There's more story afterwards, but like there's like kind of like a main arc.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right, good to know. All right, that's it then.
Cool. Thank you to everyone, our friends in Discord, our parents who bathed us when we were young. Our Patreon, our patrons. Thank you.
Our patrons who bathe us with money.
Yes,
when we're old.
who are bathing. Yeah, for our retirement accounts.
Yes.
Everything goes straight to the IRA.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it.
Cheers. Happy gaming.
Happy gaming.